Most runners bonk or get injured because they're under-fueled. So today I'm talking about how I'm fueling for my long runs in preparation for the Kodiak 100. It's sub 18 or die, baby. Let's go. Fueling for the long runs, you can't wait till you're in the moment to fuel on a race, okay? You're not fueling for the moment, you're fueling for the future. And once you run fueled, you'll never go back, as Nick Bear says. So this is what I'm doing from the morning to when I'm actually in the run, and how I'm portioning out my food, because for a lot of you runners out there, eating is probably a lot more than you think. And you have to train your stomach and gut to be able to hold it down. And at the same time, you got to find things that fit well with your microbiome, I guess you could say. So where I'm starting off in the morning, okay, hydrate. I'm getting electrolytes in super early because your neurochemicals in your brain, are going to fire a whole lot better because they're made of potassium, and they're also made of sodium, which is in your electrolytes. So I get that rolling quickly so then I can think clearly and I can be able to function better, and it helps my body absorb the water that I'm about to drink on the run. But typically, all of this that I'm doing in the morning is only fueling the first hour of that run. So while I'm eating or drinking hydrate, I'm typically eating some sort of carb. It's not always like this protein oatmeal, but having some sort of carb in there is super helpful. Has a little bit of protein. I usually don't like to eat too much protein, but a little bit is good just to help get my metabolism rolling and have something that can sit in there. So I'm trying to get 100 to 300 grams of carbs in the morning before I'm even out on the run. But that sometimes can look like sourdough bread with peanut butter and honey. That sometimes can look like Heavenly Hunks from Costco. I don't know if you've tried those, but they're phenomenal. And or Venture bars. So it can look like each one of those depending on how long the run is, how much effort I have to put out. But if it's a 3+ hour run, typically I'm going to be doing something a little bit more dense, so that way I have something burning in my stomach while I'm out there running. Outside of that, what I'm putting in my flasks. So with these, I like to drink a lot of my carbs just so I stay consistent. And typically I'm timing it. I have a watch that will tell me about every 15 to 30 minutes when I need to be drinking and eating. So I'll drink, this is Reload. It's a really great one for mountain ops that can help, keep your carbs up while you're on your run, and you don't necessarily have to eat it or stop your run to be able to eat. You can just drink it, continue on, and keep moving forward. So I'm doing this typically, and then I got a timer that's telling me, hey Brock, you need to drink. And I know, hey, I'm gonna get about 20 grams of carbs in this portion of it every 20 minutes, so I got to drink one full of these every hour. Right? Like I said, it's a lot more than you're probably considering on how much you need to fuel, because you just got to keep your body healthy. And when you're fueling, like I said, you're fueling for the future, and not just the future on your runs. You're fueling so you can last another day. If you're not taking care of your body in the morning on the run, your recovery then sucks. And so then you've now affected your next day and your next day and your next day. And so that's why you got to get this right, so that way your body has the resources to be able to perform. Because a lot of people think that, oh, my body can just recover and bounce back from it. But yes, it will, but it can't create something from something that's not there. You got to give it the resources it needs to be able to use, so then it can use it for what it's meant for. Typically in these flasks, I know that was a little bit of a detour there, I like Enduro. This is gonna boost nitric oxide in my blood, so that way it can flow from head to toe a whole lot easier, and I'm able to breathe better. A lot of times I'll throw in some creatine, and so with that, it just helps with water absorption. In between, so this is about every hour, I'm gonna be taking one of these. So there is a big difference between these two products. So your body, when you're fueling on a run, okay, imagine that your stomach is like a fire, okay? It's a big furnace, and there's You know, there's gasoline that you can throw on it where it's just going to burn up super fast, but it's going to give you immediate energy. But then there's things that are going to sit like coal, or you got your oak wood, right? Things like that that are going to sit there a lot longer. So the Go Gels, right, or Martins or whatever, I like Martins as well. These are going to burn up super fast. They're going to give you some quick energy. They're going to give you a boost, and they may help you hit your 300 grams of carbs, or about 100 grams of carbs per hour. But they're not your end all, because they're going to burn up super quick. And if you do this on every long run, a lot of times your metabolism isn't going to be able to function very well, especially when you're holding up for, in the longer runs, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. So that's where these ones come into play. This I'm actually going to eat typically, you know, I'll try to either do bits throughout the hour or one whole bar every hour. And so the reason I like this is it's super clean ingredients, but the dates. The dates are what you're looking for, because the dates are going to sit, it's kind of like a superfood. It's a hybrid between giving you the quick energy, but also sitting in your stomach long enough to where it can sit and burn. And so RX bars are one that I use, but you know, if you like dates, they're a great resource to be able to use on those long runs. And then if I'm on a race or I do like an aid station, sometimes when I'm out on the really long runs, like 50 milers, 30 milers, I'll have my car parked in a place, and I'll kind of do loops where I'm getting the elevation gain that I need, but I can come back and refuel and get my body back to where it's supposed to be. And when I do that, I'll throw in some like quesadillas, potatoes. I'm having more of this reload carbs that I can drink. I'll carry this out there, but if I need water and things like that, I'll set up an aid station that I can kind of run to that will get me the mileage and elevation that I need while also having a fueling station. And so that way I don't have to carry everything, and at the same time I can refill my waters, because a lot of times if you get deep out into the woods, these flasks, you need to be drinking these a whole lot more than most people do. And so either you got to have a water filter out there on the runs, or you got to have something that you could fill up with, like a river or a waterfall, and hopefully you don't get giardia at that point. So, but that's kind of what it looks like for me from the morning to when I'm on the run. But let's go hit the trails. For the last like 3 years of my running career, I've used the Beats by Dre, but a lot of it was because I was in marathon prep and spending a little bit of the time on the trails, but I was a little bit reckless. But as I become more educated on the terrain out here, I realized there's a ton of rattlesnakes and cougars and things like that. And so I got to be able to hear my surroundings, and so I switched to the shocks just so I don't get eaten. Right now, Kodiak 100, it's on October 12th, so it's getting closer. We're only a few months out, and mileage is starting to stack up. Last week I did a 5-hour run. This week I got a 4.5-hour run, but I also had a 3-hour run yesterday. So we're starting to really stack on the mileage. And so part of that is if I'm not fueling correctly, I'm not going to recover correctly, which then affects future runs. And that's a big problem, because if you start missing long runs, you're not going to have that endurance you need to be able to hit your goals. And so that's what we're working on today. So my main fuel source during the Kodiak 100 at aid stations is most likely going to be potatoes or watermelon fruits and things like that. I'm going to try to drink a lot of it, a whole lot easier. I know that sounds gross, but it's faster. And then during the race, while I'm out there on the course, I'm going to be taking gels, typically one about every 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much heat there is and how much uphill. The course is roughly about 13K feet elevation, and so if I'm climbing a lot, my heart rate's going to be higher, and so I got to fuel for that. Otherwise, it's mostly just going to be every 30 minutes and just keeping up on that for the full 18 hours. So a common thing that gets forgotten is that hydration is fueling as well. Making sure that you have your electrolytes, that you're drinking enough water, especially you're planning it out according to how hot it is. So if you're on a hotter race, you're going to need more electrolytes, which means you should be putting down probably 1,000 milligrams every hour to 2 hours, typically where my head is at. And then if it's a cooler race, you won't need as many electrolytes, but you still got to maintain your water. And then along with that, typically in my electrolytes, I'm drinking my carbs. And that makes a big difference because I don't have to always eat it, and my stomach can process it easier. Thank you for coming along. I hope your fueling on your next long run is better than it's ever been. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful or not, because if there's adjustments I need to make, would love to hear it from you. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.